started.
Thank you, Tim. On behalf of the Fire Service Membership Council, I'd like to call the June FSMC monthly meeting to order. I will let, in Carl's absence, I'll let Tim go ahead and do a roll call for the governing committee for us.
All right, Chair Metz.
I am present.
Chief Christine Reed.
Here.
Chief Brian Adams. Marshal Bossevert. Chief Buxton. Chief Cowan. Michael DeRochers.
Here.
Timothy Diehl.
I'm here.
Chief Krzinski. I saw you, Kara. There you are. I think you're
I'm here.
I see you.
I was.
All right,
Perfect,
Chief
I'm
Hyde.
here.
Chief King.
Here.
Gotcha. Chief Lane.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Kelly Niccolo.
Here.
Marshal Porter. Steve Swarthout.
I am here.
All right, there you are. Chief Wassom said he would not be able to attend today. Gary West, I didn't see him pop up yet.
Gary West is here.
Ah, good. Somebody let you in, Gary. I see Director Bryant. Carl is on vacation. I'm here. And that's it, Mr. Chair. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You have 10.
And I believe I need 9 for a quorum, so I think I should be good with 10.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Back over to you.
Barely made it. Wonderful. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending this month's meeting. We're going to get into our special guest presentation to start off. And I'd like to welcome Sean DeCrane, a good friend of the Fire Service Membership Council. Sean is a manager of industry relations with Underwriters Laboratory in the built environment. And we've asked Sean to join us today in order to give us his fire service incident review on the ESS failure of the Surprise, Arizona incident that led to multiple firefighter injuries. And Sean, thank you very much for joining us today. And the floor is yours.
Randy, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone. I'm going to turn off my camera and try to share my screen. So bear with me for a second. And then we'll there we go. Randy, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So really, we don't have a lot of time, and I really appreciate the amount of time. I'm ahead of myself here. So I'm going to kind of cover some things a little bit quickly. Obviously, today, as Randy mentioned, we're going to cover the incident in Surprise, Arizona. Surprise, Arizona was a failure of the emergency storage system that led to the injuries of 8 firefighters. After the incident, at the invitation of the local fire chiefs, Bobby Reese and Tom Abbott, the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute was asked to come in and conduct an incident review, very similar to a NIOSH report. NIOSH has limited funding and limited resources, so they're just not built for that near miss. But from the FSRI perspective, we saw a miss here, that when we do a line of duty death report, there's one important factor that's missing. The individual that's involved in the incident itself. What were they thinking? What did they see? What was their thought process? What did they experience? Where in a near miss, we can actually interview the individual or individuals that were directly involved with the incident and get that. So who is FSRI? I just want to start that off real quick. FSRI is the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute. This was actually formalized at UL in 2011 under the non-for-profit entity of UL, but it actually goes back a few years prior to that. In 2011, they named Steve Kerber as the director of the FSRI. Steve started with a team of one, but Steve knew that he needed to work with the fire service, so he established an advisory board. And that advisory board is comprised of 20 firefighters from across the US and also the world. We have representation from Sweden, Germany, and also Japan occasionally. It was very important for us to establish what our mission was, and that was to reduce firefighter injuries and death. But we also wanted to identify how we were going to accomplish that. And we believe that we are successful in reducing injuries and deaths through the increased knowledge of the fire service. We want the fire service to be able to make informed decisions on the emergency ground based on the information in front of them. So every day has to start off with a little rock and roll and a little video. So here's a 30-second piece that just kind of gives an overview of FSRI, and you might even see Bill's daughter in it.
Thank you, Sean.
Yeah.
Sean, I don't think we're seeing a video.
Oh, you're not?
No.
Okay.
You
Well,
still have your red screen there.
really,
I don't think you've officially, I don't think you're running your slideshow as a slideshow yet. We still see the overview slide.
Oh, 'cause I'm running through the slideshow. I'm glad you mentioned that, Randy. Let me see how to, I apologize.
Yeah, it's not in presentation mode yet.
Yeah. There you go.
That was-
Okay. So we'll do it this way.
That's it.
Okay, now we're advancing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, there we go.
Now you got it.
So you probably want that 5 minutes back.
So as I mentioned, FSRI started with a team of one, and now we have a team of 25 that works directly for Steve Kerber, including Dan Madrikowski, who formerly worked at NIST. And as I mentioned, a young, talented engineer by the name of Julie Bryant is on our staff at FSRI. But today, what FSRI, we have conducted a lot of research in firefighter tactics, but now we're starting to try to fill that void of near misses. And we actually have 3 current investigations looking at near misses. And today what we're going to discuss is the incident that happened in Surprise, Arizona. As I mentioned, I'm going to kind of go through a lot of this a little bit quickly because I want to get to the contributing factors and some recommendations, but I think it's important to give an overall view of the incident. You see a picture of a sister facility here. It was through the Arizona power system. It was a 2 megawatt system. This is where some of the complexities when we went out to conduct the post-incident review. I want to mention right off the bat, because it was mentioned before, this is not an indictment on lithium-ion batteries or the lithium-ion technology by any stretch of the imagination. There are billions of cells in the marketplace that are performing very safely. What it is a review of an incident that occurred that involved lithium-ion battery. And as any new technology, we have to understand it, and we have to understand how to protect it and also how to respond to it from a fire service perspective. So through this review, we did have the cooperation of APS. They met with us. It was myself, Steve Kerber, and another engineer that works for Steve, Mark McKinnon. We toured the site. We engaged with some of their engineers. So APS was very helpful in us conducting this review. But here's where some of the morass maybe in the incident clearly shows that the ESS was owned by the local utility, APS. The batteries were manufactured by LG Chem. The ESS was designed by a separate company called Fluence, and it was maintained by yet a separate company called Sturgeon that was contracted for operation and maintenance. As I mentioned, 4 firefighters were seriously injured, and additional firefighters plus a police officer were hospitalized overnight. There were 27 racks within this battery module. This was simply a shipping container, basically, if what you want to think about it. Each rack had 14 modules. Each module had 28 pouch cells. So over 10,000 cells total. These cells were like a pouch. So if you want to think of like a small sandwich bag and the shape and the size of it. It was running at 90% state of charge. It had a VESDA smoke detector system, and it was protected with the Novak 1230 total flooding clean agent suppression system, which, as we'll talk later, is the subject of further discussion. Just a quick timeline that I want to point out that around 1654, the minimum battery cell voltage in rack 15 began to decrease. Approximately 14 seconds later, the air temperature measurements within the container started to increase. The VESDA system detected an alarm condition, and as it was designed, it waited 30 seconds and then discharged the suppression system into the container. Now, that clean agent system is designed to suppress the fire by being within a closed system. But even by their own designs, they realized that that system's not a closed system, that there is a leakage factor that goes in. So they look at the effectiveness for anywhere from 7 to 10 minutes. At 1741, so if you look at that time frame, at 1700 or prior to 1700, the battery management system was detecting a fault, and the VESDA system was reacting and initiating the response for the clean agent system. But no alarm was sent to the Phoenix Metro Dispatch. And if you remember, the Phoenix area all relies on automatic mutual aid. So the nearest appropriate unit will be dispatched regardless of jurisdiction, whether it's Phoenix, Surprise, Peoria. So at 1741, Phoenix Metro Dispatch received a call from a passerby that called for she saw some white smoke and had a bad smell near an electric substation. Subsequently, dispatch went ahead and sent Surprise, Arizona, Surprise Firefighter to the scene of the call. Based on the call from the bystander, they anticipated a brush fire or wildland fire. So they dressed appropriately with their wildland PPE. Upon arrival at the scene, this is what they encountered. They encountered this closed system on your right there. It was padlock closed. They had a contractor that was on site. That contractor informed them at that time that they were dealing with an energy storage system involving lithium-ion technology. Subsequently, when we look back at it, not only did Surprise not know this building was there, they did not know that it contained batteries, nor did they know that there was the technology that was involved. Their Fire Prevention Bureau only had that it was a slab of concrete. They had no further communication with the developer other than that. If you look at the picture on your left, you see that it's next to an electrical substation there, and you can kind of see that it's surrounded by desert, but just to the northeast of that is a main thoroughway. It's a main roadway right there. Oh, as I mentioned, the contractor was on scene. He was encouraging the captain of the first arriving engine company to cut the lock, allow him access into the building. He knew what the problem was, and he could take care of the problem at that point in time. The captain refused to allow him entry. He asked the contractor to take a step back and go over by his vehicle, and he would get back with them shortly. Once they gained access to the inside of the barrier of the fenced-in area, The original captain, the engine captain, noticed a white haze, a white vapor coming from the building. So he started to conduct a 360 around the building. As he was conducting that 360, he described having a vapor and a smell of burning vinegar. They did get dressed in their structural PPE, I'm sorry, with the breathing apparatus, but they were able to detect that odor. As they came around that corner, the BC corner, they saw the contractor trying to gain entry to the doorway. They again directed the contractor to go and wait over by the emergency vehicles. And at this time, the captain initiated a request for a hazmat response and a battalion chief response to the area. The Surprise, Arizona hazmat team was occupied. So what they requested, Automatic Mutual Aid dispatched the Peoria Fire Department's hazmat team to the incident. Upon arrival, you see the BC arrived a little bit earlier. Peoria had a longer response time. They were responding from a connecting community. When the hazmat team arrived, they took these photos. The captain of the hazmat squad recognized the white vapor that was low laying to the ground, and it was going to the south out into the desert area. At this time, he requested that a contractor respond, that they have representation from the companies that were involved. The hazmat team then conducted a 360. They determined to be the hot zone to be inside the fenced in area. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to hurry here, but they determined a hot zone to be in the fenced in area here and conducted a 360. When they were conducting the 360, they used their multi-gas meter, and they also took a thermal imaging camera with them. As they were walking through the vapor area, their readings on their multi-gas meter were pinning to the top. So their maximum detection was about 50 parts per million for hydrogen cyanide and about 500 parts per million for carbon monoxide. Each time that they made this measurement, as they got into that vapor area, those gas meters were going off to the maximum level. With their assessment with the thermal imaging camera, I don't know if you can see my arrow, but between the first two HVAC systems, those are air conditioning systems on the exterior to try to keep the batteries inside cool. They were measuring a reading in a spot approximately to the top of the battery racks, a rectangular spot of about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So at this point in time, the hazmat captain decided to do additional research. They were looking up response to lithium-ion battery fires. They had been through some training on the response to lithium-ion battery fires, but the only training they could find was very limited. This same crew had responded the year before to an EV repair shop fire. So they did have some experience with these situations, and they knew that they should sit back and wait a little bit. They also started to interact with the designers of the system. And when they were telling the designer of the system the hydrogen readings that they were getting, the designer of the system told them that was impossible, that must be faulty reading. So the hazmat team actually conducted 3 separate 360s within a 33-minute period. And each time when they conducted this size up, their readings were maximizing their meters. Approximately 2 hours after arrival, they decided that they had to do something. There was some disagreement between the representatives from the utilities and the firefighters. The firefighters felt that the representatives from the utilities were pressuring them to turn the building over back to the utility as the owner of the building. The fire department did not want to turn over the building until they could be assured that the incident had come to a successful conclusion. After approximately 2 hours, they determined that the vapor that was emanating from the building had started to cease, had really, it ceased a lot of production. It was starting to wane. So they decided, they had a meeting at the command staff. They had input through a number of the command officers on the scene, the hazmat captain, and they also consulted with the industry representatives. And they determined at that time their best plan. They had one of two actions. The hazmat team would approach the doorway. There were two doors, one on the B side and one on the C side. They had a key to the door on the B side, but not on the C side. So they were going to open the door on the B side. They would retreat. They would assess conditions. If the fire started to build, they would allow it to burn out. They would just sit back and allow it to take its course. If no fire presented itself or conditions did not progress, they would then proceed to vent the building and confirm extinguishment. Once everyone agreed with this plan of attack, the hazmat crew advanced forward, and you can see pictures of them here. And you see him laying a charged hand line. It's a crew of 4. It's the hazmat captain, his engineer, and 2 firefighters. The engineer is positioned just past the door to the left. You see the one firefighter will be over by this mechanical unit here. And in the next picture, you'll see the captain will open the front door, or the door on the B side. You start to see some of the vapor that's pooling out at the bottom of the door level. So in the captain's own words, there was not a rush of heat. There was no pressure. So he decided to assess conditions with the thermal imaging camera and also to take a meter reading with his multi-gas meter. So he actually stood in the doorway for approximately 3 minutes. When industry questioned why the captain would stand in the doorway for approximately 3 minutes, the explanation was they were trying to get a gas reading, and with their meters, it could take upwards of over a minute to get a reliable reading within that atmosphere. They were also using the thermal imaging camera to try to get an assessment of changing fire conditions within inside the structure. Again, he saw no changes in the atmosphere. Through his thermal imager, he had a reading of approximately 100 degrees Fahrenheit to 105 degrees Fahrenheit. Actual visibility actually improved. And the captain said that he could see the top of a red container, which actually was the Novec container inside the structure. At this point in time, they saw no fire growth, and then they had no visual signs of deterioration. And with no warning, they had a subsequent deflagration explosion. If you remember the picture of the building that I showed in the very beginning, the sister building, you saw a very tight structure. You saw a very straight structure. And if you look at the bottom left, you can see how the walls in this structure are bowed out. On your left there, the lower left, that is the steel door frame of the door on the B side that the captain had opened. If you look at your top left, that is the area of the desert where they found the captain. That's his helmet laying. As the captain was opening the door, he had turned to the firefighter on the hose line, and he said, "I'm not sure what's going to happen, but if you see fire, put water on it." The firefighter that was on the hose line, all 4 lost consciousness. When he awoke, he saw fire and he started to apply water. There was no fire within the structure. The fire he saw was that bush and his captain in the desert. The firefighters from Surprise, Arizona actually were stationed up the road. So they were upwind and up on the backside of the building. And they reported hearing a loud noise and seeing a jet flame that approximately went 75 feet into the desert and about 25 feet high. They said when they arrived, they immediately started to respond to the scene. When they arrived, they found all 4 firefighters unconscious with their pass devices activated. So again, at the top left, you can see the area where the captain ended up. He was thrown underneath that chain link fence into the desert. The engineer, if you look at your top right, the engineer was found in this charred area approximately 55 feet away from the structure. So the captain was 75 feet. The engineer was approximately 55 feet. And here you can see where they went underneath that chain link fence, and pieces of their gear were stripped off them as they were thrown through that fence. So I will say, having visited these firefighters, it's amazing to me that we were able to sit down and have a discussion with them. All four have returned to work, but I will say all four, I don't know if someone asked me if they're back to normal. I don't know if they'll ever be back to normal. I know that the captain still experiences a great deal of headaches, severe headaches at times. The injuries were life-threatening. 2 firefighters were evacuated through the air, and 2 were transported through ground transportation. So very similar, we approached this, as I mentioned before, very similar to a NIOSH report. We were not there to lay blame on anybody or anything or any entity. We were not there looking at the forensic cause of the failure of the batteries. We were simply evaluating the moment in time when someone dialed 911. And how did the fire department respond? Are there contributing factors that led to this incident? And could we develop some recommendations to try to learn from this incident? Very much like a NIOSH report. So I thought we'd put the contributing factors along with the recommendations as they correlate together. And one of the contributing factors was that the core hazmat training curricula for first responders, or even the technician level, all 4 of these firefighters were hazmat technicians, yet they had only garnered ESS training and the response to ESS hazards through a couple of classes here or there, or an online class that they were able to access on their own. None of those classes gave definitive training for the fire service response. And this is consistent with what we've seen in the market, right? We haven't seen a lot of full-scale testing that isn't proprietary. So there hasn't been a lot of information available to educate the fire service. So this extracurricular ESS specific training opportunities don't necessarily comprehensively address ESS, as I was mentioned. The firefighters did say that the ESS training that they had received, most of it was focused on photovoltaic with ESS as an add-in, right? Oh, you may see this. So some of the recommendations we developed were that basic firefighter officer hazmat training should emphasize ESS safety, the potential explosion hazard, vapor cloud formation and dispersion, and the dynamics of deflagrations. We need to include research on full-scale testing to understand the most effective and safest tactics for the fire service in the response to lithium battery ESS. If it's in the middle of the desert, standing back and letting it burn for 3 days might be a viable option. But as I'll show you in other scenarios, that may not be. And if you remember, and I really should take a step back, this was built to the 2006 ICC family. So they were not required to have a lot of the recommendations that we have going forward. But this facility was built in the middle of the desert, but when you went back to the fire station, future development in that area in the next 3 years had residential properties going all around that facility. And in fact, they had a sister facility right in the middle of a residential neighborhood that actually APS shut down the next day. Our recommendation right now is to use defensive tactics when it can be established. But again, you have to go through your life safety assessment, right? What are the risks? What are the rewards? Do I have life safety hazards here? Because you may, depending on the installation, have legitimate life safety hazards that are going to require you to act. We believe that we need to create training, and this training should be as accessible as possible. We want in-person training, but we also believe there needs to be an online tool so the fire service can access it easily and often. Some of the other contributing factors, I know I got to speed up a little bit here. The ESS did not include sensors to provide information on the presence of flammable gases. There's no way for the hazmat team to monitor toxic gas concentrations or LEL. Basically, the fire service, the industry, everybody on scene was operating blind. Now we can make, these are contributing factors, and we're saying in our recommendations that the lithium ESS should incorporate gas monitoring that may be accessed remotely. This is a difficult challenge because even in our own studies, We know these fires are extremely sooty. They're extremely dirty fires. And any of the monitoring systems that we have in there quickly become, blocked and gobbed up. And actually, UL developed their own, we call it the sniffer system, the sneezing system, to constantly clean the monitors in these fires so we can clear out that soot. So much more research needs to be done on a multi-scale testing level in order to determine the evaluate the effectiveness of the gas monitoring. Another contributing factor was the ESS communication system failed early in the incident. So for that first hour, that battery management system was sending out information to Sturgeon and Florence about conditions, but it stopped sending information prior to the fire department response. So again, the fire department was responding blind, or operating blind, I should say. Even though we're recommending that these ESS communication systems should be more robust and ensure communication, there's also the challenges of what information should these BMSs be conveying. What is the information that the fire service needs to know on the scene? Industry wants to be protective of proprietary information. So we have to find that balance, and we're trying to have those discussions. So another contributing factors, and these were big. The emergency response plan was not provided to the responding fire service personnel prior to the incident. There was no emergency response plan conveyed to the fire department. And in fact, subsequently in the incident review, we were provided the one-page emergency plan that APS had developed. And this is several months after the incident. In reviewing that plan, if the fire department had that plan prior to, I don't see anything that they would have changed. In fact, the plan itself was very similar to the tactics that they took. So the industry recognizes that the emergency plan was not adequate and that they need to work a little bit harder on the development of that. We also recognize that in some of the code changes, right, requiring that before commissioning. The owners and the operators should develop this emergency plan, and one of our strong recommendations is that it has to be done in unison or in conjunction with the local fire service, because the local fire service recognizes their capabilities and limitations. And also signage. We have to have signage on scene. The fire department did not know they were dealing with lithium-ion batteries until that contractor informed them that they were. This is a duplicate. I'm going to move. So another contributing factor is that the ESS did not have deflagration venting panels or an adequate ventilation to prevent the accumulation of flammable gases, nor were they required to at the time of commissioning. So it's important to point that out, that we couldn't ignore that it wasn't a contributing factor, but we also had to recognize that they weren't required to at the time. And this is another discussion, right? Do you put in the deflagration panels, the venting panels under NFPA 68, or do you try to prevent the accumulation of gases per NFPA 69? And I'll show an example here in a second why those two, it depends on what your application is. The total flooding clean agent suppression system may have contributed to the deflagration due to the leakage of the building. One of the things that the Novec 1230 does not do effectively in that scale, because I know it's designed to try to take away the heat, but in that scale, it can suppress the ignition of the flaming fire, but it does not absorb the heat such as water does. And we still know that water is our best agent for absorbing heat. And that's what we're trying to do in this situation. We're trying to absorb the heat from the cells to prevent propagation from cell to cell or module to module. We need, again, we need additional research looking at the adequate explosion prevention protection and also the most effective fire suppression and explosion prevention systems. So I'll just go real quick. This talks about decommissioning. It took months for to decommission. Sorry, someone have a question? They took months to decommission this, and they had to develop a decommissioning plan specific for that site at that point in time. So they didn't have a plan going in, and it was apparent in that. And when I talk about NFPA 68 and 69 about deflagration or prevention of accumulation, if you look at the installation on the left in the middle of the desert, you could probably say, well, deflagration panels would be great because if there is a deflagration explosion, it'll direct it to the desert where there no harm, no foul. But if you look at the installation on the right, which is in Queens, you have pedestrian ways, you have exposures. Deflagration panels may not be the answer because if you're directing those effects horizontally, uh, do you have a roadway there? Do you have pedestrians potentially walking by? So you need to think of what strategy may be best for that application, but not specific for that time period. You have to look forward. Like I mentioned, you had residential development planned for this area in Arizona in future years. So we know that there have been changes to 2021 into the International Fire Code, looking at commissioning and decommissioning operations and maintenance. Again, having a commissioning and decommissioning plan prior to approval, the requirement for large-scale fire testing through UL 9540A. And again, that is there to develop the fire protection systems. You're also required to have fire remediation strategies and also work on fire mitigation personnel. I want to keep it in time here, Randy, so I'm just going to jump forward here. A couple of things we talked about, recommendations to NFPA 855. We recognize some of this is already happening, but we wanted to include it in our report. Currently, gas monitoring only for normal charging and discharging, no gas monitoring required in lithium ion because they don't discharge toxic gases during normal charging and discharging. But really, when we start to look at our testing, the problem comes when there's a failure and the accumulation of those flammable gases. We believe strongly that emergency operation plans need to be done prior to the commissioning of these facilities, and that they should be in conjunction with the local fire service, and that these should apply to all occupancies. So utilities should not be exempt. And I know that they make the argument that these are unoccupied structures, but as we found in Arizona, unoccupied structures still require the response of occupied fire engines and the need to interact with that facility. So we also strongly believe that signage needs to be applied. We have seen that fire prevention bureaus, building departments don't always communicate with suppression folks, and they need to have those signs on site when they arrive so they understand what they're dealing with. Also, when you start to think of mutual aid, right, they should be aware of what they're dealing with. There is more. We talked a lot in here about the further research. These tests that you see here were conducted last June and July in Northbrook, Illinois, in Building 11. We did 3 full-scale tests looking at the container system. Demonstration 1 was the propagation of thermal runaway without fire protection. Demonstration 2 was thermal runaway with the Novec 1230 clean agent system. Demonstration 3 was the installation of 0.5 gallons per minute water spray with sprinkler protection. And we will be making these test results public. This was UL investing in the research. So these were UL funds. So we are making these reports public. But I will say we recognize deflagration in every scenario prior to the activation of the smoke alarm system. So, we have challenges, and I think the industry recognizes the challenges of the clean agent system right now. We're trying to recognize what is the best water flow to protect the batteries, or I should say to contain this thermal runaway to a module or even a unit. Do we need ventilation requirements? What should those ventilation requirements be? We have further testing that's going to be conducted. We've gone out to DeCrane, which is right by Rockford, Illinois. It's actually a bomb range where we're conducting some of this testing so we can understand the explosion risk and subsequent mitigation. Also, we're partnering with the International Association of Firefighters, receiving a grant from the Department of Energy, looking at the firefighter response to residential ESS. And we selected an installation in a 2-car garage is the most likely scenario that firefighters would encounter. It's limited funds, but again, UL is going to invest approximately $500,000 of our own money to help subsequently support this. This is a very, very quick overview. This report is available on our ulfirefightersafety.org site. You can see it right there in the right-hand corner. The full report is there. I think Mark McKinnon did an outstanding job in writing the report. Kerber and I are just the eye candy to it. Mark really put a lot into it, but I appreciate it. Again, you know, our interest here is not laying blame. It's not an indictment on any type of technology or industry. It's about understanding new and evolving technologies and how can we learn from these incidents and adjust our responses to ensure firefighter safety and also public safety. So Randy, thank you very much. I hope we're on time here, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to this esteemed group of friends.
Thank you very much, Sean, for your presentation. We'll see if we have any questions from any of our attendees today regarding your detailed information. Any questions for Sean? Okay, hearing none. I thank you very much, Sean. You know, I just recently had a 250 megawatt stored energy system installed here in San Diego County. They invited in the fire service to come in and take a look at it. All my inspectors went down and toured the facility, but I know that these are popping up more and more. I know that I think New York City has a 316 megawatt ESS system currently under construction right now. So I think we're going to find these everywhere in the coming years. So definitely
Randy,
something.
Yeah, I think especially in California, as you look at the resiliency issues and the encouragement or the expanded use of photovoltaic, I just went through redoing our house and we contemplated the installation of photovoltaic, and I was looking at batteries. I ended up going with the generator instead, but
Yeah,
it's an issue. So
yeah, we're under a flex alert today as we speak right now for power. So I think a lot of individuals are looking right now at what they can do both in their residential situation as well as commercial. So the problem is not going away. It will continue to get larger, and we as regulators need to look towards finding the safest way to do this and working with industry. So thank you very much, Sean. Thank you for all your work on the research side, and we look forward to hearing about any new information that you have on the subject in the future.
Thanks, Randy.
Perfect. We'll get on with the remainder of our agenda, and we're going to move into item number 3, opening remarks from Chair. I don't really have any additional opening remarks, so we'll jump right into additions or corrections to the agenda. Do I hear any additions or corrections to this month's agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes. I will be looking for a motion to approve our May 20th, 2021 minutes from our Microsoft Teams meeting.
Swarthout makes a motion.
I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kelly. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving our May minutes?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you very much. We're going to jump into our work group updates. And we're going to start off with member recruitment. Andy King or Gary West, anything new to report on your work group?
Hey, Randy, it's Andy.
Hey, Andy.
Yes, we did have a short meeting last month. We'll have another one scheduled for this month. Several of us attended, and we continue to discuss ways that we can improve meeting attendance, continue to recommend good speakers, just like we had today, to encourage people to attend, and ways to grow our list of advocates for fire service issues as it relates to fire code process. So not a lot of work product to talk about, but we're at least meeting and moving that direction.
Thank you very much for the update, Andy. Appreciate it. Emerging issues and trends. Michael DeRochers, what do you got for us?
How you doing, sir? Can you hear me
Very good.
okay? I've been having problems with my team meetings today, so.
We can hear you, Michael.
Okay, I don't have much to report on today other than what we spoke about last month. We are working on the ABM presentation, Kelly and I. So that's where we are. We'll have another monthly meeting here in July, and that's where we are.
Thank you very much, Mike. We look very forward to your presentation that you're going to have for us. And I know that you guys are going to do a dry run for that at the NASPM conference. So I know that you guys are going to have a lot of good information to share with us on the emerging issue side. So thank you very much, you and Kelly.
You're welcome, sir.
Public awareness, Chief Reed, what do you got?
Hi, everyone. So just one thing, we had a meeting earlier this month. We've started on our next goal project, which is to present some revisions of the Fire Service Membership Council webpage. So we're currently working on how we would like to have it work and look and be interactive with the user. We do obviously have some parameters that we need to follow based on ICC's structure for formatting of their website, but we're excited to try to make some change and make it interactive and a little more personalized to the Fire Service Membership Council. So with that, if anyone has sees some issues or has some suggestions on what you as a user would like to see it do or see it have, please let me know. For the governing council or governing committee work groups, if you have specific things that based on your work group that you'd like to see enhanced within the web page, whether it's more interactive to click on different tabs or documents or meetings or things like that, we're trying to encompass all of that, but we can only speak from a public awareness, one work group perspective, but other work groups, general governing committee needs, this is the time to let us know what you're looking at and how we can make it better. We'll bring it back to the governing committee as a whole with some suggestions and ideas and see what everybody thinks about it. But it's a long time coming that we make it a little bit more personalized. So we're excited to do it. So more to come. That's all I have.
Thank you, Christine. And I'd like to give a special thanks to you and your committee for all of your efforts during Building Safety Month, for sending those tweets out every day. It was a great way to connect with our membership. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Training and education, Mark Wassom is not able to be with us, but he did send me an update this morning that I'm going to read on behalf of his committee. He states that they do have 3 classes that are being offered at the National Fire Sprinkler Association's annual meeting, which will occur October 5th through the 7th in Las Vegas. So we're getting some good exposure there by getting some of our courses into their annual conference benefit there. And I do believe, I know Andy is on the line. Is FLSS also going to have a meeting at NFSA this year, Andy? Andy may have jumped off there. I believe that IAFC's Fire and Life Safety section is also going to be having their meeting that will not occur at FRI this year at the NFSA conference. So if any of you are going to be attending in Las Vegas in the beginning of October, go ahead and look up when that meeting is, and hopefully you'll be able to join them. Item number 2, the Mark states registration is open for the ICC annual business meeting, September 19th through the 22nd in Pittsburgh. We will be having our meeting is scheduled, I believe, for the 19th. You should have received information already from Carl and Carla Higgs on attendance and registration. I know that some people will not be able to attend, and we're working on seeing if there'll be a virtual opportunity to call in for that. But we hope that you will all be able to join us if you can in Pittsburgh. I know that you also did receive a complimentary registration link to participate for the ABM and the conference itself. And we are, as usual, paying your airfare, and I believe you're getting 2 hotel nights in order to go and attend the ABM. So our meeting last year was on Wednesday. It's being shifted back to Sunday, which is traditionally when we've had our membership council meetings at the ABM. So hopefully you guys will all be able to travel on Saturday, arrive Sunday, stay Sunday, and then if you can, attend the annual business meeting Monday morning and then leave sometime on Monday would be great if you guys can all take advantage of the opportunity. And last item from Mark on Training and Education's next meeting will be July 7th at 11 a.m. Central Time. If you want any additional information, please contact Mark, Carl, or Tim, and they will get you the Teams link in order to attend. So that's it for Training and Education. So we will jump down into reports from officers, and I'm going to first call on our Executive Committee Liaison, or our Board of Directors Liaison, past President Bill Bryant, who is our liaison, and see what he's got for us. Bill?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad to see everybody. I want to also say that Jim Sayers is in attendance, Jim Brown is in attendance, President Greg Wheeler is in attendance, and so is Board of Director member Steve McDaniels. So they are all on the horn with us today. A couple things, voter validation. If you haven't validated your voter registration, that happens by August 21st. So that's coming up very shortly. The early bird registration from Pittsburgh ends August 6th. Now the governmental rate has been completed. They have gotten rid of all the governmental rate rooms that they're there, so you're subject to what's left. Now, those rooms, the governmental rooms, are not controlled by ICC, but they're controlled by each individual hotel as a percentage. So, some good news, all the ICC offices are starting to reopen. Limited numbers start July 1. And then all the way through October, everybody should be back to work at the offices in October. So we will have manned people at that point in time. For those wishing to have people come to, or board members or staff liaisons, whatever, to their local chapter meetings, you need to get a hold of Maddie Dominici. She will coordinate that. So we're starting to loosen up on our travel restrictions so we can all come out and see you. Yesterday we had a board of directors meeting, and we had two men. We had approval of some bylaw amendments that will be posted on the website for the 22nd of this month. So stay tuned for those bylaw amendments coming forward. The second major thing yesterday we finished up the evaluation and appoint members to the commercial energy standard and the residential energy standard. There are about 90 total people involved. My hat's off to anybody who is. They were instrumental in reviewing probably close to 400 applications for those two committees, and that is taken care of. The next board of director meeting will be an in-person meeting. So that's the first in-person meeting we've had for quite some time. And that'll be in July 15 in Boston. At that point in time, we're going to get together with some of the NFPA staff and go from there. Once again, September 18th, 21st, ABM, September 21st through the 20th. You do have one other item that has been pushed off to June 30th, and that's the Innovation in Code Administration Award. It's sponsored by ICC Government Relations and Fire and Life Safety Section and the NASFAM people. So if you haven't had chance to submit anybody for that, I would suggest that you submit a jurisdiction for that, because that deadline's coming out on June 30th. Other things going on, right now we are taking applications for the Board of Directors. And so far we have, for the Board of Directors per se, we have Ben Breedmore, Jim Sayers, David Spencer, Jack Applegate, and our host du jour today, Mr. Metz. So we have all those people, plus we have applications from Donnie Fitz and Stuart Tom for Secretary of Treasurer. That's pretty much all I've got, Randy. I don't know if Mr. Wheeler, President Wheeler, has anything more to say, but that's pretty much my report for today, trying to keep it short and sweet.
Thank you very much, Bill. I do believe Chris Bridges is also in that group there of people running this year.
Yes, I'm sorry, I did miss him.
Yeah, another sectional director seat there. President Wheeler, anything that you'd like to add? Went through the list and I didn't see him, but I thought maybe I was just missing him.
He may have had to jump off, Randy. I am
Yeah.
not sure.
I know Jim Sayers did post that he had to jump off, and I don't see Steve McDaniel now, so he may have had to jump off. But Jim Brown, you're still here. Anything you'd like to report as a director?
No, sir. Billy B is a tough act to follow. I believe he has it covered.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for joining us.
You bet. My pleasure.
Okay, let's see here. Going back to my agenda, report from chair. That would be me. I just really want to encourage everybody to try and get to Pittsburgh if you are able to. I know that some of our other members have some competing conferences that are all colliding at the same time. But this will be our first opportunity in almost 2 years actually it will be our first opportunity in 2 years to have a in-person meeting with the governing committee. So, we like you participating any way that you can, but in person is always best. And I look forward to seeing those of you that can make it there. Report from Vice Chair. Christine Reed, do you have anything else you'd like to report?
Sorry, I kept putting myself on mute. No, thank you, Randy. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Christine. And thank you to Bill for reminding us about the Innovation Award. Christine has been taking the lead on her and Tim Diehl on working with a work group that's been formed in order to evaluate the criteria for the award and try to create a better grading rubric in the future. I don't think that will affect this year's award, but for those of you that may remember, we did not issue this award last year. We did host a webinar for some of the individuals that submitted last year to give us an overview of their program. That was done in December. So we're happy that we're able to get back to actually reviewing applications. And we do that jointly with the Building Membership Council. And I believe that this is their year in order to lead that process. So we will be supporting and working with them once that application deadline closes. Staff liaison. Tim, what do you have in place for Carl that's enjoying a well-earned week down in Orlando, Florida?
A very hot week down in Orlando.
Yes,
so
I saw that.
Our good friend Mr. Bryant, I was putting off all the check marks on everything that was on my staff report that Bill just did a great job. He went through the offices. I did want to remind everyone that we have a good problem going on. The hotels are getting gobbled up pretty quickly in Pittsburgh. So do not waste time waiting for the hotel reservations. We did get a notice this morning that our credit card program was having an issue with the registrations, and they were working on that. I have not received an email back today that it's been fixed. So if you're trying to sign up today and you're having a problem with your credit card, we are very well aware of it, and our IT people are working on it. Mr. Chair, as you know, to get ready for that July board meeting, we'll be working on our mid-year report as the council to submit. We work on that matrix now. Bill covered the innovation of code for by the end of this month, June 30th, and then very important on the validating the governmental voting for 8/21. So if you're a person that needs to get validated, go bug your boss. If you're the boss, you need to get it done. We don't want that date to slip by, as that's creeping up on us very quickly. That was all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Tim. And, jumping on the voter validation, remember that there's a change. You only have to do that once every 3 years. But we're entering in the first year of the next 3-year cycle this year. But remember also, if you have new employees or employees that are no longer with you, you are going to want to make those changes now because they will not be reflective in what you validated from last time. So very important, or you will find out come September that you can't do any voting on CDP access or in person. So if you need any help on that, you can talk to myself, Carl, Tim, your local GR rep. They will all be able to assist you in that process there. Moving on to ongoing business, I am happy to be able to report that we have a new Fire Service Membership Council member joining us today. We did an election on the last meeting, and I'm happy to report that Chief John Lane was unanimously elected by the governing committee to fill out the remainder of the ICC term. John is with us today. John, do you want to give us a brief introduction of you?
Yes, thanks a lot, Randy. John Lane here. I'm currently the Chief Fire Marshal for Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I worked many years with Bill Bryant, as he was one of my co-workers on the I&P side. I got 36 years with Anne Arundel County, and probably 17, 18 of them has been in the office of the Fire Marshal. So I'm happy to be aboard.
Thank you very much for joining us and for your interest in Fire Service Membership Council. We will put you to work and get you on a work group just as soon as possible there. And again, I want to thank all those other individuals that did apply. There will be additional openings in the upcoming years, but it shows that interest in FSMC is strong, and we're happy that John's aboard with us. Let's see here, moving on to new business, legislative update. Anybody have any interesting legislative bills that they're following in their state? I know Gary West is following a lot of things nationally, if he's still with us, regarding fire sprinklers. I can give a very brief update on California if there's nothing else to report from any of our other states. Okay, hearing none.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Sorry, I had to take myself off mute. Just FYI for the Fire Service Membership Council, speaking of legislation, in 2 weeks, the 2021 codes will be effective at the state level within Wyoming. And within 6 months after that, all the jurisdictions have to follow suit. So we're ahead of the curve out here.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you for reporting that. I'm sure that many states are probably starting that process. California is always about 2 years behind in the implementation. So next year we will begin the process with the California code being adopted by state, and then locals will have the opportunity to amend that. So that will become effective for us in 2023. But I'm happy to hear that other states are jumping on that right away and getting that 2021 model code into the hands of developers and code officials. We are starting the process in California right now of working through our Building Standards Commission on all of the local amendments being recommended by state agencies. So that's the start for us, but it's about an 18-month process for us to begin the review and get to implementation at the local level. I wish we could do it earlier, but that actually is quicker from the 2-year process we used to take here in California. Legislatively, California, we are doing a lot right now with all things WUI related in development, in building standards regs. It's one of the biggest issues that we continue to address here in the state. We anticipate probably another record year. We burned right around 5 million acres last year. We've seen nothing so far this year that would lead us to believe that we're going to be under that. And we continue to see bill after bill being proposed everywhere from creating, wildland safety technology programs to actually outright banning any and all development in our WUI areas or our very high fire hazard severity zones, as we call them out here. A lot of those have been way too far reaching and don't really get out of committee, but it shows me that our legislators still see this as one of the largest threats to California, that and our housing crisis out here. And we continue to work with our lawmakers on evaluating the various different bills that they're proposing and trying to find that happy medium here. We just are in the process, the state of California is implementing what is known as AB 38, which is a new escrow disclosure process when any home is sold that falls within our very high fire hazard severity zones. There is a new disclosure process that requires us to do a defensible space inspection on said home. And a lot of that is really catching a lot of the local agencies by surprise because it goes into effect on July 1st. And many of us don't have programs established yet for doing those annual doing those defensible space inspections in those homes that may look to most people like they're very urban, but they fall into an overlay map that considers them in the very high severity zone area. And we're trying to work with in the legislation in order to get them what they need in order to see escrow closed on some of these homes here. So that's very new to us. And I can tell you my own jurisdiction doesn't have a program yet. We're in the process of developing the process. So it caught us a little bit by surprise as well. Anything else regarding legislation from anybody? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item number 8, which is our next meeting. That meeting will be Thursday, July 15th at our normal time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern time. I hope that you'll all be able to join us. With that, we'll move on to number 9, questions or comments from the audience. Anybody that is not on the governing committee have anything they want to add or ask of us? Okay. Anything else for the good of the order?
Hey, Randy, this is Dwayne.
Yes, sir, Mr. Garris.
So the question I have, because I was looking at, I guess, the roster was either when I was president or past president or secretary or vice president, I can't remember which one. The Fire Service Membership Council asked for an increase in the membership council itself to deal with forestry. I thought, and Bill, you may have to help me. I thought we approved to do that. It was a big discussion, but we went ahead, I thought, and expanded that. And I don't see the forestry commission individuals represented. And I'm just wondering, was that released, changed, or we stuck our neck out for us, and then it appears that they're not participating. I'm just trying to figure that out.
You are correct, Wayne, and I can tell you that we made multiple attempts and outreaches to the National Association of State Foresters to get them involved after you approved those two positions, and they did not reciprocate and offer up anybody from their organization to actually join us. There's been some discussion on possibly trying to come back and alter the membership process to possibly have us go out and select people from state forestry, whether that be Cal Fire or the Georgia Fire forestry area, or, you know, since we weren't getting any interaction from the association itself, trying to find people that may have interest in joining us. But right now, I believe that that our charter was specific to the National Association of State Foresters, not having us go out and find individual foresters to join. So that's kind of where we sit.
All right, thank you.
It is an issue that we continue to have some dialogue with Carl on our options. So yes, you did stick your neck out for us. We do continually appreciate that, and we have not forgotten about it. So we'll bring it up again and see if we can bring back, if that's what it takes, a request to change that charter language to move away from the National Association and try to see if we can select individual state foresters to participate on their behalf. With that, we'll be entertaining a motion to adjourn the June meeting. Do I have a motion?
This is Kara. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Kara. Do I have a second?
I'll second. Swarthout.
Thank you, Steve. All in favor of adjourning our meeting?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great month of June, and we'll see you all in July.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.